my vlog. So today I decided to talk about something that I noticed on campus. So I was just hanging out with my friend the other day and he was just telling me that UNSW is a smoke-free campus. And I was just thinking, whoa, no wonder UNSW is so clean and I don't see cigarette butts anywhere. I thought people in Sydney didn't smoke much in general. Apparently a lot of people smoke in Sydney as well. But in my previous school at University of Toronto, people smoke a lot, especially even on campus, and you see cigarette butts everywhere. It was really nasty. And as you're going to class, you'll be breathing in all these air and fumes. And what's worse is some people will be smoking in class as well. Like they're not rolling a joint or they're not smoking cigarettes, but they'll be bringing in vapors in class. But it was still as bad. It's kind of annoying that you're in class and people are smoking. I really appreciate that UNSW is a smoke-free campus. So I decided to look on the impact of smoking on the environment. Cigarette butts are the most littered item in the world. Apparently, there are 4.5 trillion cigarette butts being thrown away every single year worldwide. And these cigarette butts, they're plastic and they're non-biodegradable. So it takes about 25 to 26 years for them to decompose. And there are about 4,000 chemicals being present in these cigarettes. So when you throw away this onto the soil, it's really bad for the soil because all these chemicals get seeped into the soil, damages it, and it damages the plants as well. And not only is it bad for the environment, but it's really dangerous for it too, because during the dry season, these cigarette butts are a real major hazard. And what's worse is if these cigarette butts get thrown into waterways, then you're contaminating the water supply. Regardless, if you throw it anywhere, say parks or oceans, wherever, creatures are going to end up eating it, and it's toxic for them. Cigarette littering is a huge issue. It costs a lot of time, effort, and money just for the cleanup. In 2009, San Francisco spent $10 million just on cigarette littering. So back to the point of the cigarettes having 4,000 chemicals in them. Basically, these chemicals, they're breathed out and they're released into the atmosphere. In North America, 30% of the total population are smokers. And in developing countries, that percentage is way higher. So basically, this indicates that there is an enormous quantity of pollution being released into the atmosphere every day. In addition to the widespread littering problem, tobacco contributes to deforestation as well. So each year there are nearly 600 million trees that are destroyed to provide fuel to dry tobacco. And globally, tobacco curing requires 11.4 million tons of wood annually. And tobacco is a sensitive plant and is prone to many diseases, so it requires up to 16 applications of pesticides. And one of the pesticides is called methyl bromide, and that contributes significantly to ozone depletion. And tobacco is particularly potassium hungry as well, so it absorbs 6 times as much as other crops, and it leaves the soil in very poor condition for food and cash crops. As we can see, the biggest environmental impact comes from cigarette production. However, the government isn't really doing much in this area to minimize the environmental impact. They're simply putting a ban on smoking in public and private spaces, and they're just finding people who litter. So the next thing I want to talk about that's been increasingly popular lately, and some governments are encouraging the consumption and the production of it, which is marijuana. Now, I know in Australia, marijuana is illegal, but in Canada, with our new Prime Minister stepping in, Justin Trudeau, he's planning to legalize marijuana. So because of this, I decided to explore the impact of legalization of marijuana on the environment. So let's start with indoor marijuana growing. Now, indoor marijuana growing requires a lot of electricity. So in the United States, it can cost about $6 billion annually just from electricity to grow these marijuana. It also emits a lot of carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide emitted from the electricity usage and the associated transportation, it is equal to about 3 million cars. Marijuana requires a lot of consumption of energy because it is a very intensive plant. It needs high intensity lighting in order for it to grow and to be cultivated. It needs dehumidification to remove water vapor. it needs air conditioning and ventilation to remove waste heat. And these are just a couple of examples. The list actually goes on. According to some estimates, a marijuana house could use up to 200 watts per square foot. That's about the same energy it takes to power a modern data center. It is also estimated that just having 4 indoor marijuana plants, that they use as much electricity as 30 refrigerators. So let's shift our focus to outdoor marijuana growing. Now, it is just as bad for the environment as indoor marijuana growing because, first off, marijuana is a very thirsty plant. In fact, it consumes twice as much water compared to wine grapes. And if you're wondering how much water that is, it is basically 8 to 10 gallons of water a day, and that's just for one plant. This factor itself is a major stressor on the environment. So let's take a look at California as an example. California produces 60% of US weed. In order for these growers to irrigate the crops, they have to get the water straight from the river. And people are reporting that these rivers, they aren't even connecting anymore. It's literally drying up. And a study that's been done by the California government, they're saying that in an area called the Emerald Triangle, in order to supply water to 23,000 to 39,000 marijuana plants, it requires 138 to 192,000 gallons of water a day. It doesn't only just affect the water streams, it affects our forests and it affects wildlife as well. So lands have to be cleared, trees have to be cut down, our soils are damaged because of the use of fertilizers and pesticides. And this also affects the wildlife. There's a loss of wildlife because of the amount of chemicals that are used to grow and cultivate marijuana, just like tobacco. Smoking itself is a difficult issue to tackle because there's the addiction component to it. Once you start, you can't really quit as easily as you want to. And already marijuana is embedded in the North American culture. With the Canadian government legalizing marijuana, what they're doing is they're basically encouraging more people to consume it, and they're cementing this norm of marijuana as part of our culture. And they're going to realize that it's very tough to put us forward in terms of sustainability. They can have all of these billions of dollars, but it's still not enough to address the environmental issue because money doesn't solve everything. And they're going to realize that it takes more than cash itself to address the environmental issue. So that's my perspective on smoking and marijuana. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you the next round. Have a good one.